Happy Thursday, everybody. I pray all is well. My name is Michael Gibson, and I'm talking about why I go to church. I'm calling this Your Destiny Determines What You See, and comparison really can rob you of your joy. While I was sitting at my desk today, actually, it kind of just jumped in my spirit and my heart, so I just kind of wanted to share what was downloaded to me today. Oftentimes, we can look at other people and think that they are doing something so great, so magnificent, so wonderful. And we can think their life is so awesome. And what that does is put us in a state of, I wish I was there. I wish I was doing that. Wow, look at all the many wonderful things that they are doing. And what it can do is make you put yourself at a deficit because you're wishing that you had a life that you see. What I want to tell you, your destination really does determine what you see. Your destination determines what you see. So I'm going to give you an example. If I was heading down to Florida, I shouldn't get upset that I don't see snow. Because as we all know, when you drive south, from where I'm at right now, I'm in the state of Pennsylvania, the further you drive south, the warmer the climate, the less inclined you are to see snow. So if you were spending your Christmas in Florida, you shouldn't be upset if someone in Maine is experiencing snow. Now, you might say, wow, I wish I was in Maine so that I could see some snow, but you shouldn't really get upset because your destination for your getaway is Florida. Your destination is not Maine where it's cold. If I was driving in the middle of Pennsylvania and I saw mountains, I shouldn't get upset if I'm in Texas and all I see is flat ground, because your destination really does determine what you see. Now, you may be asking, what does this have to do with going to church? The destination that God has preset for you and your willingness to take the journey that God is giving you ultimately will determine what you see. So you might like the fact that there are beautiful mountains in the Poconos, but if God is destined you to Florida, you may not ever see a mountain. You may not ever get the majestic views. You may not ever get that. However, you are getting the things that God has intended for your purpose. So I want to encourage anybody that listens to this video, stop comparing your journey to someone else's journey, because many of us are going to different places and your destination determines what you see. And based on your destination, many times that will determine the obstacles you will face. Many times the destination where you are going will determine the type of weather you will experience. Many times the destination that you are going will determine the altitude that you are going through. I know driving up to Syracuse, New York, I remember as a kid, we would go to Syracuse, New York for our church conventions. And I really would hate going because there was a spot when we got to Syracuse, my ears would just start popping and popping and popping. We were so high up in the elevation that I really couldn't stand it. I would begin to get headaches because the elevation was just, I was not accustomed to that elevation. I'm telling you that, you're welcome, Selena, your destination and the obstacles and the altitude and even all of the things that are coming your way is based on where you're going. And what is happening is you're looking at someone else and saying, wow, your life is so perfect. This is so wonderful. The things that they're doing is so great. You don't know what God has called them to. You don't know where God has positioned them to do. So you might be saying, I suffered a loss and it's just not right. Oh God, woe is me. God is saying, I have positioned you to minister to people that are going to go through that same situation. In order for you to be able to be, in order for you to have true sympathy, in order for you to be able to really comfort, you had to experience that thing for yourself. So it's not that you have lost anything. It's not that your life is at a deficit. It's just a matter of fact that your destination is different. So your destination will determine the things that you see. Your destination will determine the type of environment that you're in. Your destination will determine the type of people that can go with you. Because not everybody can go with you on your destination. They may have been able to go with you to a certain point, but they can't travel the whole way with you. And what ends up happening that you begin to get heartbroken. You begin to get downtrodden. You begin to get in the position to say, woe is me. Maybe that person's destination wasn't as far reaching as yours was. Maybe their mission is not as far as yours is. So maybe their mission was only literally to South Carolina. They had to stop at the south of the border, but you had to go all the way down to the Florida Keys. So you had to drop them off. You shouldn't get mad that you have to drop them off. You should just say, thank you for being with me for this part of my journey. And this is what God is showing me, because what is happening is, I'm just speaking for my life, there's been a shift. There's been a shift of the people that would come and support me. There's been a shift of the people that will come and speak in my life. And what God is showing me is that you shouldn't be upset. You should just be grateful for the moments and the times that they were able to impart in you. But I'm calling you to a different space. I'm calling you to a different atmosphere. I'm calling you to a different position. And those people got you this far, but they weren't designed to take you to the end of this race. You are comparing yourself to someone that has a different destination. So if someone is in a house and you don't have a house, you shouldn't get upset, because maybe that's not your destination. Maybe that's not what God is calling you to be. Maybe God doesn't want you to have a house because he doesn't want you to have to deal with all the maintenance that goes with a house. Maybe God has called you to be a missionary and you don't need to have all this land. Maybe God is calling you to do something totally different. But if you compare yourself to someone that's going to a different destination, it'll make jealousy rise up. It can make bitterness rise up. It can make envy rise up. It can make up all these things rise up. Thank you, Tony. I appreciate it. It will make all these things rise up. That there's no reason for that situation to materialize in your spirit. You're looking at somebody that spent a vacation in Christmas in Florida, and you're upset because they're on a beach. While this person's sitting on the beach, they're upset because they were like, man, I wish I could have snow for Christmas like I see in the picture. You never know what people are going through in the pictures that they point out, because the picture is just literally a second in time, literally a microsecond in time. It is literally a snapshot in time. It doesn't necessarily give you the full story. It doesn't necessarily tell you all the trials and tribulations that they're going through to present that picture. So stop comparing what you're going through based on what someone else is going through. What I want you to do is get into this word, dive into this word, and ask God, where are you positioning me to go? And God, if you are telling me to go south, please let me go south. Don't have a Jonah moment. Don't have a Jonah moment where you are going in the opposite direction because of your feelings, because of your emotions, because your emotions are subject to change. Your emotions can change because they are temporal. Your emotions are based on how you feel. Your emotions is based on your current surroundings. Your emotions are subject to change. What I want to encourage you is get in this word, read this word, dive in this word, and embrace wherever God is sending you. And if the person next to you, albeit your brother, albeit your best friend, if God is calling them to a different area, into a different arena, don't get jealous because they are experiencing some things that you wanted. Because I know the greatest trap, I can tell you right now, one of the greatest traps is that many people are going to church. And when I say go to church, I'm just talking about getting in your word, communing with God. Many people are communing with God not to learn, but just to speak. All of us are not called to speak. Some of us are called to do so many things, but speak. But we want to get and study this word because we want to speak. We want to get and study this word because we want to be on camera. We want to get and study this word. Look, you should be studying the word and getting close to God because you want to learn more about your Savior. You should want to get in this word and study from God so you can learn more about your purpose. You should want to study and get in this word so you can learn about where your destiny is. Because when you know your destiny, when you know where you're trying to go, your destiny is a designation. Your destiny has an address. When you know where you're trying to go, it prevents you from going on ways and traveling places that you don't need to travel. For instance, and I spoke about this last week, when you know that your destination is New York and you're in Philadelphia, it will prevent you from going 95 south because New York is above Pennsylvania. New York is above Philadelphia. So you know that you're going to New York. You won't get on the road to go 95 south. If you see a sign said, I'm heading towards Maryland, you know you're going the wrong way. Your vision will accelerate you towards the destination that you desire. Your destination is an address. So what you got to do is ask God, where is the address? Where you're trying to send me? So when you know where God is trying to send you, you won't go west when God is trying to send you north, because you know going west will put you in a position that will detour you from the direction that God is sending you. Stop hanging with people that are going in opposite directions. Stop being jealous of people that are going to different destinations. Listen, if you're going to the Poconos, you're not packing swimsuits. You're going there to ski right now. If you're going to the Poconos to ski, why are you jealous of somebody that's going to Florida in a bathing suit? You're going to two destinations, different destinations. You have two different purposes. Ask God for the purpose for your life and embrace the situation in the place that God is sending you. And listen, if you're going through hardship, if you're going through anything, if you lost a loved one, if you have lost a child, if you've lost a job, if your marriage is not where you thought it was, if your child is not where you want them to be, that doesn't mean that all is lost. The enemy attacks you in ways to get to you. So some of the struggles and the battles that you go through is based on what you're carrying. Because what you are carrying, the thing that you are carrying, the thing that you're trying to birth, the thing that you're trying to do for God, the enemy will use the closest thing to deter you, to get you off of your destination. The enemy will use anything to distract you. The enemy will use anything to deter you, to get you off course. What you got to do is put your vision and put the address that God is sending you and say, I'm not going to be deterred. And if you were deterred, get back on course. I'm not going to tell you that I've always stayed the course on the thing that God has told me to do. There's been times I've been distracted and I went and got in somebody's vehicle that was going in a diametrically opposite direction of where I was going. But because I had vision, I had to understand, I got to get out this car. The only thing we have in common is time. It is our gift from God to consciously use time to move his kingdom forward. God's purpose is directly attainable if we take patient view to the decisions making that make us use our time to stay on course. Time, correct. The only thing we have in common is time. That is absolutely correct. We all have the same amount of time. But if we're not making a conscious decision, to stay on course, totally, we're going to waste a lot of time. And what ends up happening is, after you wasted a lot of time, you can easily become jealous of someone that used their time wisely. You can become jealous of someone that used the same 24 hours of a day and put it to good use. Don't be jealous of people that use their time going in the direction that God has called them. And I'm telling you, if you wasted time, God is the redeemer of time. I want to confirm that God is the redeemer of time. And God, you can learn from your losses. You can learn from your setbacks, because they're not really setbacks. They're just giving you an opportunity to view things differently. They're giving you an opportunity to perfect things. I've said this before, that the 409 company called themselves 409 because it took them 409 attempts to get their formula right. It took them 409 attempts to get the formula right. So either you can think that I spent 408 times perfecting this thing, or you can think I spent 408 times getting this thing wrong. It's all about your perspective. But what I want to encourage you is fine-tune your vision, because your vision helps you set your destiny. And your destiny has an address. Because your destiny has an address, it will help you understand the roads that you will take. Because your destiny has an address, it will help you understand that certain places you go, you're going to see snow. Certain places you go, you might see mountains. Certain places you go, you might see clear skies. Certain places you go, you might experience hurricanes. Certain places you go, you might experience tornadoes. Because your destination has an address, and certain addresses have different climates. Certain addresses experience different type of weather. And what you need to do is stop being so jealous of people. Look, if you grow up in the inner city, and I didn't grow up in this inner city, but I've spent time in cities. If you grow up in a city, you might not actually ever see a real park with real trees and a real playground. You might see a park in the middle of a block on a cement structure with buildings all over the place. You may not actually ever experience a park that is like really a part of nature where there's like nice trails and things like that. That doesn't mean that you should be upset with me if I live in the country and I have parks with animals running free and things like that. Stop comparing your where you are with someone that's literally in a totally different zip code, literally in a totally different address. And I hope you all can understand what I'm trying to say. I know that God has a plan and purpose for all of us. And because of the plan and purpose that God has for some of us, we're going to experience different types of adversities. And we actually going to experience different types of highs. And just because my high isn't your high doesn't mean that I'm less in the sight of God. Just because my lows isn't low as your low doesn't mean that I'm better than you in the sights of God. Well, we understand that we all are God's creation, but we're all are not God's children. Because people that are God's children obey his voice and do his will. And when you do his will, you must understand that some of us are not called to speak. Some of us are not called to lead. Some of us are actually called to help. And just because you help doesn't mean that I'm better than you because I speak. Because we all worship, at least I hope we all worship the same God. And the same God that I know is no respecter of person. So I go to church because I want to know where God is sending me. And I don't want to get jealous of somebody going someplace that God is not calling me to. Because you can spend time on a journey, on a race, on a track, going the opposite place where God has called you. And you can kind of go live in a place that God and move in an area that God hasn't called you to. And you can experience so much frustration. You can be so annoyed. It's because God has not called you to that area. God hasn't called you to do that thing. And because you're trying to do something that God has called someone else to do, there can be a level of frustration that is uncalled for. So I go to church because I really want to learn where God is sending me. Because reading his word, I've seen that the trials, the testings, the things that I go through is based on the thing that God has called me to do. The attacks are based on the assignment that God is giving you. Not what God has given my mother, not what God has given my brother, not what God has given my co-workers. It's based on the assignment that God has given me. So yes, God has called me to minister in certain ways. So yes, my son that passed away, I had to go through that because God has called me to minister in a certain way. Yes, when my father died and I wasn't able to hear him speak when he passed away, I had to go through that because God has called me to minister in a certain way. God has all called us to serve in a certain capacity because a minister is nothing but a servant. God has all called us to serve, but you can't serve effectively. You can't serve efficiently if you're always looking at someone else serving, saying, I wish I could serve like they do. We don't know people's story. And to be honest, I don't want to live anybody else's life because I don't know if I could handle it. I know God said he would put never more on you than that I could bear. I don't know what you could bear. What you could bear could be totally different than what I can bear. So I'm going to rejoice and be happy with the race that God has called me to run. And some of us may have similar destinies. So we may be able to run together. But if we can't run together, I'm not going to be upset and say that what I'm doing is invaluable. What I'm doing doesn't matter, because everything we do for God does matter, great or small, because we are members of this body. We are members of this body, and each member of the body is equally as important, whether they are equally seen. Because remember, the heart is not seen. You don't see our heart. Our heart is covered by our flesh. Our heart is covered by our pectoral muscles. Our heart is covered by our rib cage. But our heart is a very vital, critical organ. So just because you're not out front doesn't mean that you're not vital and critical to the operation and the move of God in this dispensation. You could be the very glue. You could be the very piece that God needs to move. So I just want to encourage you to get in a place where you can find and learn your destination. Because when you have vision, your vision will keep you from going in the wrong place. When you have vision, your vision will help you hang with the right people. When you have vision, your vision will help you understand that where I'm going, the climate could be a little bit rough. When you have vision, it will help you stop wasting your time. We all have 24 hours in a day, but don't get jealous of someone that is using their time more wisely. Use time wisely and ask God to help you get a vision for your life. And if your vision for your life is different than the vision that God has called me to, I celebrate you. Learn to celebrate those people, because every vision that God gives is important. Every vision that God gives is important. No matter if I understand the purpose of it, that God gave it to you, I honestly believe in my heart there's a purpose for that. But this is Michael Gibson, and it's why I go to church. It's because I'm beginning to understand that my destination determines what I see. And it's very important to not to get jealous of people, because you never know the destination they're going to. Again, be blessed. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule to listen to me speak today. But if this message has blessed you or encouraged you, I ask that you share it out and find a place where your soul can be fed. Get into this word, because this word is life. This word is life. And if you need more life, get more of the word. Stay blessed. Have a safe holiday. And thank you for your time.